still stuck even if you did the WD-40, well, I wouldn't recommend doing this. Here from Supercars of Philadelphia, and if you're watching this video, chances are you've caught interest in the X-Pipe Performance products. We have the tips. If you pan over here, we have an assortment of all these tips. I'm going to give you a little rundown of how to do this yourself. Basically an install and some tips, some moral support. It's not a difficult install, but it can become irritating if you don't do certain things. For one, when you have the car, prep it the night before with some WD-40 and like a microfiber, any kind of cloth, and just saturate those bolts that you need to loosen up, because you're going to need to loosen up the tips, the hangers, the H-pipe, all that stuff on the stock exhaust, and then you're going to be implementing this bad boy right here. Look at that finish. Beautiful finish. Once you get all that stuff saturated and it marinates, it's going to be easier to loosen up. It's not uncommon for those bolts to get rusty. It's just from driving the car. If you do drive your car, chances are it's going to be rusty under there with the bolts and everything, so it's nothing to freak out about or be concerned about. It's not uncommon, it's very normal for a lot of these bolts and stuff to rust, whether it's OEM or anything like that. We did mount the stock exhaust from the 987.1 back one. That way, well, if you have interest in this, there's probably a good chance that's what you have. The whole process of installing it, you're going to be loosening everything up as far as the tips, the hangers, and that way you have some play. Once you have play to spread it apart, you can kind of mosey this in. As far as an assortment of tips to choose from, PVD tips, you have the satin tips, you have the brush tips, you have so many options, slash cut, straight cut. That's really up to you to exemplify exactly which ones you want. Don't mind the background noise. The guys at Sol are cranking out products for probably you if you've ordered something. I'm going to be putting on today the slash cut custom brushed black tips. That little Sol insignia on there too. That's satin. That's the cool thing about Sol. That's what I like about these guys. Very customizable, not in a ricey way, but in a very classy way. I just really like everything they're doing. I normally have my Sol Performance products comp package, the full exhaust on the car, but just for this video, that way you guys can follow through and install this, because I can't really do this on my car because I don't have the X-pipe. The OEM pipes, the axle back, this is made for that. Dive right into it. What you're going to be doing, and the main goal is to get this piece off from here. So there's two 15mm bolts right here that you're going to pull off, but in order to get that separated, it needs to hinge off, and then you tap it with a mallet. There are these 13s, and then the flanges back there. You're going to get them two down. So now that you know what we're doing, let's do it. The first one we're taking off is the 15, which is back here. There's one on each side like I just showed you. Once you get this off, pretty much good to go to loosen those up, and then you can pull this off. You're not going to put the tips on first. You're going to put the pipe on first, tighten that all up, and then you get the tips basically sat however you want. It's just a matter of where you want them. If you want them pushed in, pull it out, or kind of whatever. It'll make more sense once I show you. So for this bracket, you got the 13 with the wrench, you can just throw on one side. You need to hold that in place. You just have to take the bolts out, because once you get that loose, you can slide this through and you can loosen the exhaust a lot easier that way. So the last thing you want to do before you get that X-pipe off, those brackets, the flange from the header and the axle back, there are 3 bolts there. It's a 12 and a 13, one on each side. You're going to have to hold one again like how I did with the socket with that, except you might not be able to get it with just a wrench. You're going to need a socket with an extension. Once you get in there, it'll be a lot easier that way. Once you loosen those up, you should be ready to split this apart and get after it. God damn it. Oh, there we go. Is that recording? Your mileage may vary, but to get those brackets off, You might have to take them off, you might have to loosen them, just feel it out. Loosen them up first. Once you do take them off, if you need to, it's just gonna make things easier if it hasn't already worked. So if your hardware's stuck on there, even after you did the WD-40, I wouldn't recommend you doing this, but there's a little trick I have. The little trick I have that might work. This is the awkward part where the flame doesn't light. So if your hardware is still stuck even after you did the WD-40, well, I wouldn't recommend doing this. That shoots some crazy flames. One thing I've done in the past to make things a lot easier, even with other videos and mods, just anything regarding these bolts, to access the two top bolts, you pull this down and bam, you can access those so much easier. Once you have this loosened up, it pivots that way. Now we can hit those. By the way, they're also a 13mm tube, so it's helpful to know that. Instead of 12 on there. The fun part, you can either use a mallet or we've lubricated this, so basically it's able to slide out as easy as possible. I didn't think I'd be able to do it. So all you gotta do is just tap this with the mallet. You can hit this pretty hard so you don't have to be shy about it. Oh yeah, it's a good sign. So I separated that up there. Make sure the bolts are out of the anchor right here. And it's out. All right, you can either take it out or you can leave it on. We're gonna pull this out just for the sake of showing you guys and filming it. It's a little bit easier to do it this way. So once you have this out on here, you're just gonna pull this off and then we'll fit the X pipe on. Now before you do this, you just wanna put the connections on, that way you can wipe this stuff down. It's a little bit easier once you do it that way. While we have these out here, I'm going to take an opportunity to give you a little side-by-side. You have the X-pipe right here with proper flow. Cast X-pipe, pretty awesome thing. It's pretty much what you want. The stock OEM piece is a T-pipe, very restrictive, doesn't flow as freely. Not going to say it's a performance enhancement, but just look at it and kind of let your own imagination create that answer, because this flows way better. Once you're ready to go, you just want to lube this all up with some WD-40, and this bad boy is going to slide right back on there. I'm at a weird angle, but there we go. And the X-pipe will go on. Get that on right around here. We've already prepped this with the WD-40 load. You want to try to set this up just so it's easier for you in the future, you know what I mean? Set yourself up for success. Have these facing, you know, a proper position where you can tighten them as you go on. It just goes all the way in, and once we get this straightened up, it'll fit a lot better. It'll be centered. I'm just gonna tighten this a little bit, not too much. That way it just kind of stays in place. This is slid all the way in. This is hanging down. We're gonna grab that side of the exhaust, and we're gonna fit that back in, and then slide it in, and then we can get our tips on. I can't stress this enough. Just make sure you clean this off, lubricate it, so it slides on a lot easier. It is a game changer. It saves your life. And patience. Fit back in, and once you get that lined up, there we go. You can kind of see where this was before. It's pretty much where it's gonna sit. Just make sure you have those face downwards so you can get to them. There we have it, boys. Got our X-pipe on. Another pro tip would be to get your bolts in, set up, but not tightened all the way. That way you can get everything fitted and properly in, make sure everything is connected, and then you can tighten it all up. I know that's kind of basic, but if you don't know, now you do. Hand tighten this. Again, you don't have to tighten them up all the way, just hand tighten them. You can go once over everything. Afterwards, just make sure everything's all final. You should double, triple check it anyway. That's what I plan on doing. Cool. We're gonna tighten the 13s up on this connector. Try not to scuff up your bumper as you do it. So these are the tips I showed you earlier that we're going with. These are the brushed black tips. I like brushed, but I like black. This is what it looks like before. So we put the PVD, black PVD coating on this. PVD takes up, it's a very light coating, it takes up the surface that it's getting applied to, which if it's brushed, now you have a brushed black tip. It's slash cut. It's so cool.
You gotta slow-mo it. Soul, cool, refreshing. Quenches your thirst. Soul.
Got super quiet
Water
here.
for your soul.
On these tips, yeah, you see the tip, but before I put this on, I'll just tell you there are 3 parts to this, 3 components. You have the tip, obviously, and then you have the tip ring, and lastly, you have these sweet Michelor clamps. They're rust resistant. Sol chooses to use them just because they're high quality. It's of a higher quality clamp that you can use and that you find on most, I think most exhaust companies. Not a lot of them use these. So that's why you kind of want these. Just Sol uses them, which is pretty dope. I'm gonna put these on, and it allows for adjustment too. Obviously I have the orientation set, so you can just get these on up here, tighten them from the left. On this side, I'll be tightening it from the right, and we can adjust it as needed once we get it on. It's a 13 to get these on here. Just because I'm a genius, to make sure they're level, you can use something like a high-tech clipboard, and it'll help straighten those out. And once that is on there all the way, you can lift this up, and you just have to tighten these 2 bolts. Tighten these down, and then we'll give you guys a look. Just wiping this down, that way we can show you the finished product of what we have assembled here. God, my hands are dirty. The X-pipe installed with these 2 tips on here. Again, they are the brushed black, on a PVD brushed black tips from Sol Performance Products. Pretty easy install. Really, a lot of the time is just prep work. Basically, you're loosening bolts, brackets, flanges, and then just pulling this out. Pretty easy, I'd say, on a scale from 1 to 5. It's definitely down there in the 1 to 2 range. It's just time consuming. You just have to have patience. What's that quote that Abraham Lincoln has? It's, give me 6 hours to cut a tree. It'll take 4 hours to sharpen my axe. Right? Camera Spock? He's just gonna ignore me. And that is the final product. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, contact Sol Performance Products. If you want to see more stuff like this, also just subscribe down below to Supercars of Philadelphia. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up too if you're on YouTube. If you're watching this from Sol Performance Products' website or anywhere else, buy it. Just buy it. Buy it. It's brain control. Just do it.